Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Room 104, Season 1, Episode 8. It is called Phoenix. Full spoilers for the episode as always. So we've actually went further back into the past with this episode. This episode's set in 1969. So
Mm.
we start in the room, so it's a little bit more, instead of going black and white, like I thought it might for an older, it might still, I mean, motels have been around long enough, maybe we'll go further back, but instead of going 4:3 like the 90s one did, because that was a more technologically focused episode.
Yeah.
So that one kind of made sense to went in that. This it went more with colours and tone. Everything was very brown and kind of like everything's kind of it just looks kind of old and danky.
Yeah.
By today's
I did
standards.
notice that the room felt a lot bigger.
Um,
Like there was less stuff in it, I think.
yeah. I could also just put in to the lenses that were being used in this episode. They might have just wanted to make it feel more like an empty space, and therefore,
Yeah.
feels a bit. So yeah, stylistically, the episode feels very unique. Right away, we start with this sort of panning shot going over the sort of the table and the counter that lands in the TV, and it's like right away it feels like okay, we're easing into whatever this is. It's not just jolting us into a story. It's no,
Yeah.
here's the mood. We're giving you the mood first. And I don't know if that necessarily sets expectations, but certainly I was feeling the atmosphere immediately
Oh,
before we
definitely.
before we get into anything else. So we have our main character in the room, whose name's Joan, and she is. That sounds weird out of context, but she's dirty. She's covered in like dirt. She's clearly went through something. Her hair's all kind of a mess. She's kind of distraught, kind of staring into space. The TV's talking about uh, suntan lotion and heat waves, and people at the beach and things, and you know, but she's distraught. She eventually goes, cleans herself up, goes to the bathroom. Again, there's a lot of it happens a few times throughout the episode, but you see her sort of just under the tap with the water running and kind of like try to cleanse
Yeah.
herself of you know,
The tap has a really strange sound as well. Like it
yeah.
doesn't just sound like running water. It's got this really weird thing that makes you focus on it more than you normally would.
I think part of that's just the fact that there's so little other noise going on as well. Like it's almost like this is the one sound that's really
Yeah.
breaking the silence. So it's very noticeable. It's kind of like when you're in a kitchen and there's nothing else there, you just hear the hum of the fridge.
Yeah.
Whereas normally if you're talking to someone, it's like no, it's not even there. So you don't even notice it. But
Mm.
um, so the premise of this episode is that we hear over the news a little bit later on that there's been a plane crash in
Yeah.
the area, and it's completely eviscerated the entire plane by the sounds of it. And very quickly, okay, right, so is she a survivor of this plane crash? That's certainly what the episode's kind of leaning to at this point.
Mm.
And it becomes kind of clear that she probably is. We see her like pull out a little like bag of I don't know, peanuts or something like that, but it's like an airline bag
Yeah.
of food. And it is these little hints, and it's like she's distraught. Is she this one survivor who's kind of stumbled off and ended up at this motel, or is it something a bit more symbolic? Is this something more otherworldly? Is she actually even alive right now? That's kind of what's going through my head pretty
Yeah.
much. Really quickly into the episode, I'm sort of dancing around with those ideas.
Right, it wants you to because, like I say, she's dirty. She's not all there. Like she's staring off into space. It feels very otherworldly in that sense. So
There's a fly that just keeps buzzing around, and she tries to hit it at one point.
yeah, and it like there's very much just this sense that well, whatever we're seeing, it's not quite right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of little hints like that things just we're and it's funny because 1969 the old TV broadcast I was getting some like Night of the Living Dead flashbacks almost kind of thing, and especially it's all set in one room. Even I wasn't expecting zombies or anything like that. I don't mean that. It's just in terms of the tone. I was getting some Night of the Living Dead from it, and maybe that's just my own not bias, but my own just taste and like sort of knowledge of this era just sort of like gravitates towards that for the late
That makes
60s.
sense.
Yeah. So she ends up phoning someone. She gets the phone out and she calls a man whose name is Dan, according to IMDb, and explains to him what's happened. It explains that plane crash has happened. He seems to know about the plane crash. He's probably heard about it in the news. He's like, "Oh wait, you're okay?" Like he's surprised. He's like, "Oh, you've
Yeah,
oh, where are you?
it's a pretty major event.
Yeah, where are you? What's happened? What you fine?" She's like, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine." Kind of
But she's
thing.
very like, don't say my name. You know, she wants the secrecy. She doesn't want to be found out.
Yeah, and it's also her demeanor throughout the conversation. Again, she's still very shell shocked and not. It doesn't sound like someone who's actually survived that incident and is like rushing to tell a loved one that she's okay and she's happy to hear their voice and
Yeah,
whatever.
and the guy on the phone kind of brings that up. It's like, if you let your kids know.
Yeah, well, if you let your husband and kids know, so it becomes
Yeah.
very clear that this is not her
Well, yeah, but
husband.
he says the kids first, and then he asks about the husband after.
Yeah, but the point is, she's not even went to any of them first. She called him. She called the guy that she's cheating with on
Mm.
first. That's who she went to first. And so okay, so at this point we're getting a lot more of a character. There's more going on here. Like she has perhaps guilt here, or she has an unhappy life, and that's why she's cheating. She has a sort of crossroads kind of vibe coming from her at this point, and he asks where she is, and other sort of normal questions, saying he'll come see her. He'll be there. But again, the tone is very detached. It's very kind of awkward. And it's like, yeah, they probably care about each other, but you almost get the sense that he feels like he's in an awkward place. That he's been the emergency contact, as it were. He's like, oh, I didn't know we'd realised that we got to that point where I'm the one
Yeah,
you
it's
call
like
for this.
he hadn't expected that he'd have to deal with this.
Yeah. But of course, before she goes to sleep that night, there's a knock on the door for room service or the maid or whatever, and she tells her, "No, go away. Don't want it. Go away."
Mm.
There's a knock again in the morning, tells her to go away, and then later on, it's after the phone call, after everything else has went down, the knock's persistent, and whoever's on the other side of the door starts to talk in and starts to very quickly gets to a knowledge of who she is, uses her name,
Yeah.
and says she's there to help and she wants to give her some food. She must be famished. She talks about the crash. It happened just over the hill or something to that effect. And you must have wandered from there. There was one part of the plane that wasn't completely disintegrated. The one little section, which is presumably what you survived from, if that's
Right,
what's going on.
and you kind of get the sense that, okay, because she uses her name and she's like, okay, I've seen you on the news.
Hmm.
And the idea that, okay, if this was the bit of the plane that wasn't destroyed, did they maybe like broadcast, okay, well, these are the people, this is the people who were in that area.
Yeah, maybe, maybe, or they've just broadcast as a part of the plane that wasn't destroyed, and this girl, having seen her like stumble into the motel, was like, hey, I bet she might be from that
Yeah,
plane
yeah.
crash. Um, and I imagine maybe they just like, obviously she's not been watching the news all night. She sees like little bits of it and she turns it off out of almost frustration. She doesn't want to be reminded of what she's going through. Just
Mm.
turns it off out of anger. I almost wonder if there was just like a roll call of everyone who passed away, like in the
Okay.
crash kind of thing.
Yeah, if you've seen them already, that's enough to jog your memory.
Yeah. So eventually she lets her in, and obviously it's Mae Whitman plays the girl who's on the other side of the door. So I couldn't help but have a crack a joke when the door opened. I just went, her? And Connor's not seen Arrested Development, so that's just flying right over his head. But for fans of Arrested Development, you'll appreciate that joke.
I'm sure they do, probably.
They do. Don't doubt me.
I can't judge it.
I know you can't judge it, but you'd be cracking up. You'd be cracking up if you'd seen Arrested Development. I promise you.
Nah,
So
or I'd be going, really? You're doing this?
nah, this is the kind of joke that you would get behind, no matter how much it gets used.
All right, okay. I'll take your word for it.
I can promise you. If you get rid of your filthy heathen status and watch Arrested Development, you'll see the light.
I'll get to it eventually. That means having time.
So she comes in and she brings her a sandwich and something to drink, and it's very awkward, very slow paced conversation. And Joan clearly doesn't want to talk about anything. She wants to keep to herself and not bring anything up. But the conversation quickly turns to, oh, they'll find out you're here soon enough. There'll be reporters. There'll be people wanting to ask you your story and talk about things. And then Joan thinks she's a reporter.
Yeah,
That's what she jumps to. So, oh, you're asking me all these questions about who I am, and because eventually she brings up, well, who you called, your kids. She starts bringing up personal details, what her real name is, like all these things that kind of prod her into like, just, stuff she definitely does not want to be discussing.
yeah.
Obviously she's unnerved that she happens to even know this. Like, how could she know this? The
Mm.
name, sure, if it was broadcast on TV that this is the person who died, you can get that. But she starts giving out details that wouldn't be on the TV.
Right, exactly. Which is why she goes to report her. It's someone who's, been investigating her.
Yeah. And of course, at this point, again, thinking that this isn't just, face value what's actually going on, I'm like, yeah, but it's far too quick for her to actually have investigated this, really.
Yeah, especially in the time period with
Yeah.
no internet.
Yeah, no internet, nothing like that. And, at this point, there's been a crash. Like, she'd have had to have been already investigating her, so it wasn't adding up to, like, as a believable, this is
Right.
exactly what's happening.
Immediately you're like, okay, that's not right. And it's around this point, as you know, you're really doubting the story
Hmm.
that Joan, she rubs the back of her head, like you can see, like it's like she's hit it.
Yeah, there's a quick flash once or twice in the episode to, like, a damaged head. Like, the back of a head, and it's,
Hmm.
like, bloody and as if it's been, went through a plane crash, basically.
Yeah,
But her head doesn't actually look like that, of course.
it doesn't.
There's some small instances of like she mentions why is there blood in the sheets when when Mae Whitman comes in, and she covers up the bed. She's like, no, I cut myself shaving, none of your business, and covers up
Mm.
the sheets. She doesn't want anyone to know about it. But again, it seems like she's in denial. It seems so obviously like I'm thinking purgatory, but throughout most of the episode, it seems like the go-to thing that we're talking about here. And honestly, even after the end of the episode, I never had my mind changed about that. I feel like
No, I had two options at this point of the episode. It was either okay, like you say, purgatory, or she is there, but this second woman isn't, and is a
yeah,
representation.
yeah, no, I could see the argument for that. The ending threw that away for me.
No, I agree. Like I said, that was at
Yeah,
this point in the episode. That's what I was
yeah,
considering as the two options.
yeah, because she keeps bringing up stuff, and Joan gets so angry she demands she leaves. She gets upset, and when she doesn't leave her alone, she says she's there to help her, and basically she gets to the point of her visit. She's like, you have to make a choice. Are you going to go back to your husband and kids, or are you going to go down this other path into this other person? Which way are you going? And then she gets really kind of almost confrontational is maybe not the right word, but she definitely prods a nerve because she like would your husband and kids be better off without you? Were you ever
Yeah.
were you ever good for them? These kind of questions, and Joan snaps. Joan eventually grabs a cable and strangles her to death.
Yep. Yep. It's pretty intense.
It's very intense, and actually my favorite shot of the entire episode is actually it's the light coming from the door, and it slowly goes across the floor, and eventually hits Mae Whitman's character. I keep saying Mae Whitman's character because she doesn't have a name on IMDb. She's a mystery. She's the mystery girl.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever named in the episode.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's intentional. I think
Yeah.
she's not a human being in that sense. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But there's this shot of it's as if the door's opening, but it's not actually opening. But it's as if the door's opening and the light is pouring into the room. It's just this perfect rectangle of light, and it's just coming towards her feet, and eventually it hits her. And then once Joan comes back out of the bathroom, she's up. She's awake again. And this is where she really told him you have to make this choice, like which way you're going to go. And then the door actually does open, and it's a blinding bright light. So clearly at this point I'm like, okay, right, this is getting very purgatory. This is
Yeah,
you at the end of the tunnel kind of idea.
definitely.
And she leaves out the light, and John basically screams and goes crazy. And but,
I mean, it's a lot to deal with, isn't it?
yes, there's a lot going on, and the reason why at the end I'm pretty sure this is purgatory is because it loops back round to the start.
Yeah.
She's sitting there again, the same broadcast is on TV. The only difference is though this time she's sitting there, she's all dirty still from the plane. She actually kills the fly. She hits it on her face.
Yeah, and to me that was, the whole thing was like, okay, she's got to make a choice, and she's been looping, we don't know how many times, but every time it's like she didn't make the choice. But
Yeah.
here, this time, she hit the fly, she killed it, she made that choice. So it's like, okay, this is where she can. This time, she'll get to make a choice to get out of purgatory.
Do you have any inkling as to what that choice is?
I don't know. No, I don't. As well, I mean, in my opinion, there wasn't enough to answer definitively one way or the other. But just the fact that she did make up her mind in some way.
It's interesting to me because I feel like because the way that Mae Whitman's character's prodding her, I think there's maybe an argument to be made that she's actually not a good character slash spirit slash entity.
There is. She's very like even just the way she's very unsettling.
And I feel like the almost temptation to not pick the wife and kids is almost like, well, if you don't pick the wife and kids, you're going with me back to hell. But if you pick the wife and kids, you're an okay person, so you're going the other direction.
Mm.
I was wondering if maybe that was something it was getting at. My camera's shaking a little bit because my cat's behind the monitor, cleaning himself or something. I don't know what he's doing, scratching his ear. Um, but so yeah, I was getting some vibes of that. I think ultimately though, if I'm going to like talk about this episode in terms of quality and how I felt about it, I liked the style of it. I think that the tone was well established and it had like a feeling about it. I
Mm.
do think the actual script and the story is a bit muddy and not really getting across the points it really wants to make.
No, I agree because I think ultimately, like I said at the end, like, okay, I get that she's made a choice. She's broken the cycle by killing the fly, but I don't know which way.
I mean, that may not be important. I think for me, it's just a case of I was never fully engrossed in the story. I was engrossed in the atmosphere at the
Yeah.
start, but you know, once Mae Whitman came in and it was all this like double meaning conversation and what she actually talking about, and I never found myself really caring about what was going on. It just kind of felt off. It felt like we're almost going through the motions. This is meant to be meaningful and have a double meaning of whatever is going on, and I
Mm.
never felt like, oh, I'm actually really intrigued by it. I'm more just I'm picking it apart and sort of analysing it because that's what we do, and that's what I'm used to doing with this show in particular. But I never really felt compelled to actually do that. But and then so when the ending came, and you know we had the big bright white light, and you know at that point it got proper surreal and proper like this is definitely not normal life and normal things happening. It just kind of felt like okay, I guess we're here now, as opposed to actually building to it and making me feel like it.
Yeah, it kind of felt surprisingly definitive as well in that sense. You know, like a lot of the others, we've said, okay, we're pretty sure this is what it is, but it could still go either way. Whereas here, when it got to the point, okay, there is literally a blinding white light here.
it honestly, the most interesting thing about this episode for me is that it's made me question kind of the nature of all the episodes a little bit.
Mm.
Because it's making me think. I don't necessarily think all the episodes are purgatory, right? I'm not saying that,
But
but
is it ever real?
no,
Uh,
not well, no, kind of. Well, let me explain. To stop
yeah.
jumping ahead, um, I was starting to think, well, what if Room 104 is a place where people go through a change? I was kind of almost thinking, not quite as a dark and sinister, but kind of like how Silent Hill, if you've ever played those video games, is this place where you go because you need to go there to sort things out.
Mm.
Because every
Okay.
episode's had someone go through a choice or a change or a revelation, whether it's about themselves or about a pair of characters, or they've went through some kind of life awakening of some kind. But all of them have kind of been that. The only one that I'd say it wasn't was the Pizza Boy episode. That's the only one that feels kind of just like a normal thing.
Yeah, and the first episode to a degree, in the sense, oh, okay, it definitely didn't feel like a normal thing. It was, okay, it had like, is it supernatural? Is it not? But I'm not sure at the end of it the character went through much of a change.
Well, she learned she was crazy potentially.
Potentially.
If you interpret the ending that way, it
Oh
does
no,
kind of still fit into
that's fair.
that mold.
Yeah.
And
This episode also made me notice just how much of a theme it's been of the idea of people who aren't really there.
yeah, there's
Like
been
it's not been
a lot
every
of that.
episode, but probably half of them have had that.
I think you've either got people who aren't there, or it's just someone making a choice about themselves and realizing who they are and kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because even the internet episode, he went through a change. He realized what to be thankful for in life and sort of
Yeah.
appreciating things. So, like so I don't know. It was making me sort of question, like, in the continuity of the show, if there is any continuity, because I mean it's an anthology, so technically there isn't. But I was like, is Room 104 kind of a spiritual place where if you end up there, you will go through a change, you will learn something about yourself or something, whether it's in life or in this case potentially, in death, like after you've died.
Yeah.
This is where she accepted she was dead, and like,
I'd be really fascinating if obviously she did die and that she's here. Why to her? Why room 104? Like, is it the idea that that purgatory literally did like purgatory
Yeah,
itself.
I was gonna say, like, why do you think she
Well,
chose it,
no, I
or
don't. That's what I'm saying. That's the two options. It's either it's come from her mind, her subconscious that's created it, or purgatory, like it's based it on this place. Because obviously, some of the episodes were saying, okay, no, this is real world. That this very much happens.
yeah, I don't think she's choosing it.
No, okay.
Yeah, I would never have thought that. Just based on what we were talking about, I would never have said.
Yeah, yeah, no, I didn't think that either, which is why I was a
Yeah,
little bit just confused then for a second.
no, I think it's just a case of room 104 is literally near the plane crash, and maybe her spirit wandered in there. Maybe she's not actually staying in there, but her
Hmm.
soul, as it were, still thinking she's alive, has went in there. Kind of idea.
It's not bad. Yeah.
That's what I've got. So I think it was a great episode. I could see what it was going for, but it never really kind of nailed
I,
it.
I think this is one of those episodes where I'm glad it was a short one. Like, like in the show's, 20-minute episodes, 25 minutes,
Hmm.
because I feel like it never got to the point where I was sick of it and it's like, okay, it's outstayed, it's welcome, because the tone and atmosphere and the style just about carry it long enough that
For
by the
25
time it,
minutes, sure, yeah.
right. So, but if this was a 40-minute show, then I'd feel like, okay, I really needed something more.
Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. So I wouldn't say this is one of the stronger episodes. Admittedly, like I think you can poke holes in a lot of the episodes. I do appreciate though. I kind of see this show as like a weird little experimental workshop, right? Where they can
Mm.
come in and just do crazy ideas and try and make something out of it. And sometimes I just appreciate the creativity. Sometimes I actually get a really good final story out of it. This is one where I can appreciate what they were trying to do, and I appreciate the filming style, but ultimately didn't add up for a
That's it.
compelling
Like, I
episode
think
at the end.
that's the thing with an anthology. They can't all be great episodes because by its nature of them trying to do different things, some of them are going to work, some of them aren't. And like I say, like, okay, they clearly succeed on a technical level. It looks great, it's got style, it's got mood. So it wasn't a complete failure.
Yeah. So there you go. That has been episode 8 of Room 104. Let us know what you think of the episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that over there. But otherwise, guys, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?